Good eatings, everyone. Relina here, and welcome to my channel, where I make all kinds of creative stuff and try new things with you. Although today is going to be a little more about creating than trying something new, because this is actually a medium I already know pretty well, and I'm guessing a lot of you do too. But this time, it's all about the scale. Ta-da! This box is absolutely massive. I could barely lift it. I genuinely thought it was about to break my desk in half. This is probably the biggest art purchase I've ever made in my life, something I'd been dreaming about for years but could never actually afford. It is a huge, cosmic, absolutely monstrous set of Ohuhu Honolulu alcohol markers. This is a set of 320 markers plus a blender. These have the chisel and brush nibs, which are my personal favorites, and they come in this sleek black bag that's stylish enough to take out for a little promenade while throwing your back out with elegance. Ooh, I can barely put my feelings into words. I feel like I just opened a treasure chest and it's full of diamonds, emeralds, and other shiny nonsense. I just want to dive into it headfirst, roll around in these markers, absorb them from my skin. Like, seriously, I wanted these for so long. I'm literally shaking. But okay, before I pass out, let's see what else they put in the bag. So, in here we've got two little art cards and plus some line art printed on fake paper, probably for people who want to color them in themselves. We've also got swatch charts, which is very important, so those are going aside for now. And, of course, a booklet. Now, the entire thing is in Japanese, which I unfortunately do not speak, so I can only really navigate by the pictures. But overall, it seems pretty clear. It's listing the brand's products, some charts, different types of markers, though just from the images alone, I honestly can't tell what's the difference aside from the shape of the nibs. Oh, and apparently there's also a little diagram here showing how to flip a nib around to refresh it. Very cool. I've actually never tried doing that because Ohuhu nibs are surprisingly durable. Or maybe I just color very gently, or maybe I barely draw, or maybe all of the above. Oh, and apparently this 320 set doesn't even include every color Ohuhu makes. They also have extended ranges of grays, skin tones, and pastel shades. This chart confused me a little, so I went on the Ohuhu website, and from what I could tell, some of those sets overlap partially, but there are still colors missing from my set, like 21 shades from the skin tone range, for example. And seems like there are also different kinds of Honolulu too, like plus, which honestly looks exactly like mine, so I really have no idea what's the difference. But I'm sure there is one. And yeah, I could have, Googled it or run this whole book through a translator, but I'm an extremely lazy person. I hate reading instructions, and I prefer poking at things myself first and figuring them out like some kind of goblin. I guess I just like riddles. I mean, actually, no, I hate them. But that's not the point. Also, in here there's this little plastic sheet that you can put under the page so the ink doesn't bleed through your entire sketchbook, which is honestly amazing because it's super useful. But oh my god, there are so many of them! So many markers! I can't handle it. I want to touch every single one. I'm genuinely losing my mind over here. The only problem is that they're packed in a completely incomprehensible order, so I can't even tell which colors are more of and which are fewer of. So before anything else, I'm going to have to reorganize them into some kind of usable system, like this. And here I thought I would make a dramatic finger snap and then a magical cut to everything being neatly sorted. Except the reality is that I spent
3 whole hours
rearranging all of this. And by the end of it, I was very close to losing my mind, so I completely forgot about any dramatic snapping. I was just happy it was over. Honestly, I have very few kind words for this experience, and it's all because of the bag. Yeah, it's nice looking, it's sturdy, it's well made, but if you take everything out and then try to put it all back in again, it becomes a genuinely sadistic form of torture, I swear. You put one marker in, it falls over. You try to balance it by putting in another one. They might stand, but not for long. Now you're balancing them like a circus act, trying to achieve enlightenment, maybe even managing to line up an entire row, if the gods are merciful. And then suddenly they all collapse again, and now you're peeling them off the bottom of the bag, and there are those little gaps in there, and the little bastards roll underneath and get stuck. So, I don't know, maybe some people are fine with this bag, but personally, I'm not a fan. I hated the experience and I have absolutely no intention of actually using it. I much rather just buy a marker rack on Timo. But anyway, bags are fascinating and all, but let's get back to the actual stars of today's show, the markers themselves. I first tried Ohuhu markers about 3 years ago. Back then, I bought a small set just to test them out, and I fell in love instantly. They're considered a budget friendly brand, but honestly, I wouldn't say they're dramatically worse than Copics, quality wise. And Copics are in that, absurd ultra mega luxury, costs an arm and a leg category. Maybe the difference is in light fastness, I don't know, but that's not really a major issue for me because I mostly draw in sketchbooks, which means my drawings don't get that much exposed to direct sunlight. I wouldn't call myself some grandmaster marker expert, but I have been using alcohol markers as a medium since the late 2000s, and over the years I've tried a whole bunch of different brands across wildly different price ranges. Actually, let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in a full review of all the alcohol markers I've collected over nearly 20 years. Some of them are probably discontinued and don't sell anymore, and some have somehow survived the full 20 years and are still alive, which really says a lot about how rarely I work traditionally. Anyway, out of all the brands I've used, Ohuhu are some of the best quality-wise, while still being far from the most expensive. The brush nib is really nice and responsive, and if you use it carefully, it lasts surprisingly well. The ink feels good too. Well, yeah, it spreads more than Copics do, but it's not one of those cheap no-name marker sets from AliExpress or Timo that leave puddles behind and then somehow still bleed weird yellow stains through several pages after they've dried. No, Ohuhu markers are reliable, predictable, and generally good quality, and that's exactly why I ended up loving them so much. Now, let's talk about the colors. There's a ridiculous amount of them, which is not exactly surprising in a 320 marker set. I counted them by color family, and there's what we've got. So yeah, the set is incredibly rich, which again makes sense for such an amount. There's plenty of everything here. Warm tones, cool tones, light and dark tones. I generally can't think of much you can't draw with this set. And even if a specific color is missing, you can just layer what you already have. And that's not really a big deal either. By the way, I've seen people say that fluorescent shades in marker sets are just a waste of space and are totally unnecessary, but honestly, I think they're fun. Sometimes you just want to add a bright little accent, and that's where these guys come in handy. Ohuhu markers blend and layer really well, although if you want a very smooth gradient, you'll probably need to do several layers, and that does mean the edges of the marker area will inevitably start bleeding and expanding and may go beyond your line art, so that's just something to keep in mind. But anyway, I've been rambling about all this random stuff, while what I actually want to do is finally draw something with this glorious pile of riches. By the way, while I was filming this review, my marker shelf arrived, so here's what everything looks like in there now. Well, sort of. Because the entire set didn't actually fit, because apparently I failed to check the capacity and the shelf only had 240 holes. So the other 80 markers had to be crammed into a different shelf after I evicted some old AliExpress markers from it first. But yeah, without a shelf, I was going to lose my mind with that bag. It's incredibly inconvenient to use while working, and I also don't like that the markers are stored vertically in it, because as far as I know, they're supposed to be stored horizontally if you want them to last longer. And my 20-year-old marker veterans that still haven't dried out are actually pretty solid proof of that. Okay, I got carried away again. I was supposed to be drawing a picture. I spent a long time thinking about what exactly I wanted to draw, and for those of you who follow me on social media, it's probably no secret that I'm currently deep in my Kingdom Come Deliverance obsession. As a person who basically lives from one hyperfix to the next, I naturally try to connect all of my activities to whatever I'm obsessed with at the moment. So I decided to draw the game's main character, Henry, together with his dog Mutt. And truth be told, it's a real challenge for me because, first of all, I'm not very good at drawing animals. Second, I almost never draw plants, and there definitely need to be plants in this piece. And I almost never draw anything beside human portraits or, I don't know, naked torsos. So, what does that mean? That's right. It means I need to get out of my comfort zone, draw more, and learn new things. Yeah, but easier said than done. I've gathered a bunch of dog references, including screenshots from the game, but apparently that didn't save me. I mean, the in game dog is pretty goofy, but I definitely didn't set out to make him look this weird. It just happened on its own. Like, who is this? Honestly, I would have left him like that, but I couldn't focus on drawing while he was staring at me, so I decided to fix his face a little. Not that it helped much, to be fair, but I tried. Besides, my paper isn't exactly marker specific, it's just regular thin paper, so I was scared to go too hard with the eraser and end up with a hole in it. So I also kept Henry's proportions as they were, even though he looks more like a teenager here than an adult. But hey, why not? I really wanted to create this calm, sweet, wholesome vibe. But looking at that poor dog, I'm not so sure anymore. Maybe he turned out that way because he's starving. Like, brother, what are you doing, brother? Let me eat. In the game, you can actually do pretty terrible things. Your food spoils in your inventory over time, and you can literally feed the rotten meat to the dog. So, yeah, you can tell what kind of person Henry potentially is. Here he looks like such a sweet little angel, but there's a potential maniac hiding behind that face. Alright, I'm joking. Or am I? And usually I leave the line art for the very end, because once you add color, it's much easier to see where you actually need lines and where you can skip them. But this time, I decided to do the line art before coloring because I was afraid of getting lost in all the details. Plus, I've been struggling so much with Henry's face, I only get it right half the time. So I decided to play it safe. Honestly, I've been obsessed with brush liners lately. This one I'm using right now is fantastic. It's a Kuretake Zik Kokoiro. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It has such a lovely brush tip that lets you do both super fine lines and thicker ones. And the best part is that it dries fast and it doesn't smudge when I go over with alcohol markers. There's going to be a lot of greenery in this drawing since Henry is sitting in the grass, plus there's a bush behind him. I really wanted to draw the foliage in more detail because I usually just slap down some color blobs, but this piece just feels like it needs a bit more care. Mutt actually started looking a bit better once I did the line art, and I decided to add a bit more detail to the nettle bush next to him. This drawing just wouldn't be right without nettles. In all fairness, I'm not exactly happy with the line art. I even thought about restarting the whole thing from scratch, but perfectionism has been making my life miserable for years, so I've made it a rule. Just finish the work because it's never going to be perfect. I'd rather make it exist and have fun in the process. So I definitely had fun drawing that dog at least. And then, on the other hand, having imperfect line art is actually a good thing, because it makes it even clearer how much color can transform a drawing. So this is a real test for Ohuhu, seeing if they can actually save a drawing when the line art isn't exactly perfect. I'm working with a ton of greens here, not just for the plants, but because Henry's outfit is almost entirely green. So all those green shades in the massive set definitely came in handy. But of course, I didn't just stick to green, I wanted a bit more painterly look, so I mixed in some purples and blues to add a bit more variety. Ohuhu is actually great for that painterly effect because they blend so nicely, and as I mentioned, the brush tip is super easy to work with. It's not too stiff, not too soft. It holds its shape well, so staying within the lines isn't a problem. Sure, the ink bled over the edges a little bit here and there, mostly because I layered it so many times in those spots, but that's expected. Still, the way the colors interact, both layering and blending, is really convenient. For instance, if you run a light purple over green, it actually lightens the layer underneath a bit, which helps keep things from getting muddy. Just keep in mind that if you don't want to lighten your shadows, you'll need to pick your colors more carefully based on saturation. I pretty much followed the same principle for all the other elements in the drawing. I saved the face for last because I was honestly terrified of messing it up. Also, I just wanted to see how the rest of the piece flowed. To be honest, I never really know how a drawing is going to turn out. Making preliminary sketches usually doesn't help me anyway. I can do them in color or skip them entirely. It is always a complete surprise. I just kind of go with the flow, and the drawing sort of finishes itself in some mysterious way. Actually, the element of surprise is kind of fun. Also, yeah, the dog kept me entertained throughout the whole process. I can't get over it. He reminds me of my cat who watches every single bite I take with that "I've never been fed in my entire life" look. That's exactly how this dog is staring at the piece of jerky in Henry's hand. By the way, yeah, that's a piece of jerky, not a sock or some trash. And the dog is obsessed with it. He wants that meat so bad, and he's looking at Henry with such judgment, probably unable to wrap his furry little head around how someone could be so greedy and heartless as to not share with a starving creature. And Henry, he doesn't even realize the dog is hungry. Look how surprised he is. He's just chilling in the grass, snacking away, not a care in the world. He's got some nettles around him, some flowers, some plantain leaves nearby, so he's not just grabbing a bite. He's basically on a health-boosting recreation break. Actually, speaking of layering, it's really interesting to see how you can just slap a blue color over everything. I tried it here to help separate the character from the background since everything is so green. There's just so much green. And you need that contrast, otherwise, it all just melts into one big green blob, which isn't exactly what I wanted. So that blue I layered on top really saved the day. And at the very end, I finally tackled the skin. I could have gone for more volume and shading, but I decided against it. It's already detailed enough, and I didn't want to make it look too heavy. Plus, I was scared to ruin it and really wanted him to look at least a little bit like himself. The only things missing were some final details and highlights. So I grabbed some colored pencils and a white brush liner. This thing is super convenient. It's not opaque, it's slightly transparent and thin, so it's perfect for adding those little flecks and lines to define the shape and give the drawing more depth. Then I used a more opaque acrylic marker to clean up the background a bit. I actually hate erasing pencil lines completely because I like how they look as a tonal base. So I left them in, and voila! And this is how it turned out in the end. I had so much fun during the process. It was incredibly satisfying to finally feel that freedom in choosing colors. Usually I have to dig through my entire collection to find the right shade, and a lot of them don't even have brush nibs. Plus, the ink feels different in every single one. But here, everything I could possibly need is right within this one set. It's just wonderful. Nana agrees that these markers are excellent. And just to be clear, this isn't a sponsored video, though I wouldn't mind if it were. But yeah, I really think the markers saved this drawing. Like I said before, I wasn't a huge fan of the line arts, and I'm so glad I fought off that perfectionism and finished it, even when I wasn't feeling it during the process. I'm really happy with the result. Actually, while I was working, I was thinking about why I love markers so much as a medium. I think the way they work just clicks for me because of how predictably they layer. As a digital artist, I'm used to thinking in layers, so it was probably easier for me to grasp alcohol markers since they basically layer like multiply mode in digital. And they give you that smooth, flat feel that feels a lot like digital painting. Anyway, I really like how Henry turned out, and I like how Mutt looks. I think I even managed to capture the mood with color, although if I were to do this again, I'd add a bit more variety because despite all my efforts, it still ended up a little too green. But then again, why not? What's wrong with green? It's a perfectly fine color, I would say. My favorite part of the whole drawing is definitely how hungry the dog looks. He's just full of this tired disappointment in his human companion. I'm still cracking up over his human like eyes. It's very medieval, right? But yeah, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. I would love to read them. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope we all had fun. And I will see you in the next video. Don't be afraid, create, and have a blessed